Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Is it legal to leak a video of my boss's porn-watching habits at work? Posted by Ralphie0027. I've recently been dealing with a borderline abusive boss. I don't really feel like typing out all the details as it's been very stressful lately. But basically, a few months ago, he was playing music off his tablet that he leaves at work. I was scheduled to close, and he let me know to shut it off. Upon doing this, I was closing the open apps, and I noticed the porn search was left wide open on the Chrome app, so I looked through the history. It's pretty much just pages and pages of strictly ebony porn. This is a white 65-year-old man, all over his tablet, mostly on the dates and times that he was here. Naturally, I recorded all the evidence, along with the matching time and date stamps of him being at work. At this point, I no longer want to work here, and I'm not really concerned about getting fired as I plan to quit without notice pretty soon. When I do so, would I get in any legal trouble for emailing this out to the district? This manager has been known to be a problem, and nothing has been done as our DM just turns a blind eye. Racist and homophobic rhetoric is almost a daily occurrence. He already got a slap on the wrist a while back for transphobic comments and screaming at an employee in front of guests. I don't care about this job anymore, but I'd at least like to get rid of him for my coworkers if I leave. But I'd rather not get sued. Any advice? I don't know about the legalities where you live, but at least go over the DM's head and post all the evidence to every email you can find. I mean, it's not like you care about being fired. Boss forced me to give away my hard-earned money, so I sabotaged her bonus. Posted by Between My Ears. Every year, the company I work for has a huge fundraising campaign. They solicit from all employees to voluntarily contribute towards charities directly from their paycheck, pre-tax. You're encouraged and very heavily pressured to donate to pre-selected charities of their choice, in small amounts per month for the year, or one big lump sum. If you did cave and do this, it'd be better to do monthly payments because if they fire you or you quit, at least it's not the full year of payments they're taking from you. Think lots of email reminders and signage all over the company walls. Ploys of having your name entered into prize drawings. It didn't matter how much you contributed, prizes were always won by company executives and leadership. The company had running totals for each department on how many people were contributing. They wanted 100% participation from all departments. It was supposed to be private and anonymous and only show numbers. I quickly learned it wasn't as anonymous or voluntary as advertised. If one or two people were holding back, they were usually approached by the administrator and pressured to participate. What's really strange is the administrator of my department at the time, who was usually very stoic and stern, became giddy about the charity campaign. It was weird and raised alarms. One year, I was struggling hard, so I wasn't going to contribute. I was so broke. Here comes the admin lady into the office. We are almost at 100% participation, claps giddy squee. She looks around and starts to question each person. She was eyeballing me the whole time, trying to subtly make her way to me. She gets to my desk. Have you made your contribution yet? Without thinking, I should have just told her it was personal. I told her I was still considering which charity. She pulls a chair over to my desk with a sob story from one of the charities and how the money helps those in need. She asked me to pull up the charity website and literally walked me through entering my contribution. So, as a good little naive worker, I did as I was basically being forced to do, and contributed a minimum of $24 a year at $2 a month from my measly salary. I made our department reach 100% participation. Who cares, right? The next year, I purposely waited until the last second to make my contribution to see if I got the same one-on-one chat with the admin lady. Sure enough, here she comes with the same sob story that she has memorized. Once again, she baby talked me through making my contribution while she watched. I soon became her target to get rid of. She was out for my job, so she separated me from people I got along well with, including my direct boss, and made me report directly to her. I knew I had to get out of there quickly or I'd lose my job. I applied for positions and wound up transferring to another department within a few weeks. It ended up being an amazing move and one of my favourite positions to date. In this new department, they organised and ran multiple company, city and county-wide events, one of the biggest being the charity campaign for the whole company. I brought up to my new coworkers how incredibly weird my previous admin lady was at that time of year. They said, well, of course she wanted 100% participation. Admins get a bonus when their departments are at 100% participation. You can bet your sweet rear ends I started telling everyone in my previous department about that little tidbit. The next year, that department had one of the lowest participation efforts. Being that I was in a better place in life and actually liked my new department and leadership, I began willingly contributing. The new admin would take that bonus and buy everyone lunch or some other form of thanks. I wonder if that admin lady ever found out the OP was the one behind her department participation suddenly tanking. Bet that bonus you cost her was a hell of a lot more than the $24 she cost you. My boss was cheating on his wife, effed me over, so I told her. Our next story comes from the ProRevenge subreddit, posted by DM Carrick Davis. This was about 5 years or so ago. I was working as a server at a pretty nice place. It was a brand new restaurant, so servers as well as managers were still getting their grip on things, and things were changing rapidly as management figured out what worked best. We had this assistant general manager, who we'll call Carl, that had this terrible superiority complex. He would treat me and the rest of the staff like we were always incompetent, but was super buddy-buddy and friendly with the general manager and the owner, so nothing was ever said or done about his behaviour. Carl was married to his very pregnant wife, who we'll call Sarah, who would come in around lunchtime quite often to bring him homemade goodies and say hi. This was incredibly awkward for the staff because we all knew that Carl was sleeping with another server, who we'll call Rebecca. Rebecca would also be often working when his wife would come in and would be extra friendly towards her. Carl would kiss his wife, be sweet and loving, etc. I didn't say anything, and neither did anyone else, even though we often talked about how terrible we all felt for Sarah, and whether we should, but ultimately, nothing was ever said. Until I'm working a crazy dinner rush in the weeds, still doing a great job with my tables, as I'd already been serving for around 8 years at this point, when Carl calls me over to a table. The guests are sitting there with their freshly brought out dishes as Carl proceeds to ask me, in the most condescending tone, "Can you tell me what's missing from this table?" I proceed to look and realise that one of the guests doesn't have a steak knife yet. Totally my job to bring one before the steak is served, so I messed up. I say, steak knife, and proceed to turn to go grab one. Carl grabs my arm and forces me to stand there as he tells me how unacceptable it is to forget a steak knife, and that these types of mistakes will not be tolerated, and I should be very careful about remembering these things going forward, etc. The guests look very uncomfortable at this point, and because of his raised voice and how close the booths are, I notice the neighbouring tables are listening as well. Wow, I would never return to a place if I saw that. I flushed red and apologised and went to get the steak knife. I proceeded to do very well for the rest of my shift. The next few weeks, my shifts are cut to 2 lunch shifts per week and no dinner shifts, compared to my usual 4 dinner shifts and 3 lunch shifts, running a double one of the days. I become very concerned immediately as I'm living pretty much week to week off my tips and paycheck. I go into my next shift early and ask to speak to the manager. Carl's already in his office waiting. I ask about my schedule and he proceeds to tell me that they hired new staff and everyone's hours have been reduced, etc. Okay? Only when I go and ask my coworkers, 2 of them complain that they were given my shifts and actually don't want them, and were upset about having to work on the weekend. Same thing happens for 2 more weeks before I'm finally able to speak to our general manager, who informs me that Carl does the scheduling and did voice the steak knife incident and used that as his rationale that I'm not cut out for dinner shifts. Seriously? I'm livid, as I really was working so hard and was recognised by my other managers for doing so well, and was never addressed for any other issues, only given praise. This proceeds to happen for another month before I finally get another job that I applied for pretty much 2 weeks after. I quit the other place, excel, and quickly get promoted to closing the new restaurant, as well as getting the best closing shifts because of my work ethic. As all of this was happening, I kept replaying every conversation I had with Carl, and how absolutely rude and demeaning he was, not only to me, but to everyone else. We often had girls crying during shifts because of his behaviour. So, I tried to see if I could find his wife on Facebook. I knew his first and last name. Found her right away. As I'm no longer working there, I decided to send her a message directly from my personal account, detailing what I saw with him and Rebecca while I was working there. I mean, it was terrible. Rebecca wasn't shy about telling anyone who would listen about the hotels they would rent for the weekend, what their sex life was like, and how he was saying that his wife just doesn't please him anymore. I told her everything with as much detail as possible. She read the message, but I got no response. 2 weeks later, I heard they're divorcing, and he's been fired because his conduct was finally revealed to the owner after another server quit right on the spot in the middle of a shift because Carl yelled at him in front of the staff about not folding napkins correctly. Last I heard, Carl moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere where he's the manager at a local diner. His wife remarried and took full custody of their baby boy. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.